And we are live.
Howdy. Making sure I'm getting the right link. There's
Yeah.
two.
Wow, they're a little behind us on. Looks like they heard us talking. And we're new to streaming, folks, so bear with us. Hi, down here I'm Mike, and up there is Kerry Batts. He is the creator of Pro Strategy Football. Welcome, Kerry.
Hi, thank you very much, Michael.
I'm glad you could make it. If you wanted to go ahead and do what you were doing, I'll let everybody know what we're going to do here. Okay, folks, what you see on your screen in the left side is the beta right now of Pro Strategy Football 2021. And let me move this over here just a moment, folks. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Oh, excellent. Learning as I go. All right, this is the beta for Pro Strategy Football 2021. And Kerry right now is telling people, I guess, on Facebook or wherever else that, hey, we're live and here's the link. But Kerry's going to talk to us about the game and what he's added and what he's working on. Kerry, why don't you tell us, before we dive into the beta here, what have you added at this point that's an addition from 2020, and what would you like to continue to work on during the beta?
So, the first thing I worked on, and it was quite intense, was some career options. I added free agency, and it's configurable. Some people don't want it at all, but it's configurable how many free agents you can have and so forth. And as part of that, now that players can move among teams, I've also modified the career history screen so that now you can see, it looks very similar to what you see on some of the websites, like Pro Football Reference is a great site, and I used them as an idea for laying out the history so that I can see, for example, Fran Tarkenton was at the Giants, and then he was at actually was at Minnesota, and then the Giants, and then back to Minnesota, and you would see that on his screen now, and you would see his stats at each team, and then his total stats. The next thing after that was with great suggestions from you and some other guys, we worked on modifying and greatly improving, I'd say, the animation. You now see players' names on the field. You see messages appear as events happen instead of waiting to the very end. You also hear sounds now. You'll hear penalty when the penalty happens. You'll hear intercepted when the interception happens. Again, instead of in previous years, everything was held off to the end of the animation. And this works in replays as well. And then speaking of the audio, the other thing that uh, added right after that was custom audio, so that I'm going to ship some default sounds, the sounds that you currently hear in the game, plus some new ones, and those are going to be improved. But in addition, you can now have whatever sounds you want. So, for example, you made some sounds that had like you'd run it through a processor, and so it sounded like an actual play-by-play commentator.
Yeah,
But
I made I called the same things that come with the game, and then I ran it to make it sound like it was AM radio, so like you were hearing a radio call.
yeah,
Yeah, so just to give it some kind of old school feel. But yeah, one thing that is a strong point of this game is not only the ability that you've given people to modify this game, but the modding community as a whole. Uh, this game has so much potential. You listen to the fans, and you at least attempt to accommodate them for the features that they would like added to the game. Don't expect everything, especially in one version. But the things you're adding to this game, and I will say that you have added uh, the ability to have 130 college football teams. So you could have all Division One college football teams, and not only that, but you've enabled schedules now that will homemade schedules. People can mimic actual historic or modern day schedules of various different football leagues. Um, so why don't you, and you created a playoff bracket as well as tournament brackets. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's been pretty exciting. And like you said, it now supports 130 teams. But honestly, as long as your league is broken up currently into, I believe it's two divisions, four, six, or eight divisions. As long as your league is broken up in those divisions, it doesn't matter if you've got four teams or 130 teams. And what you and the other guys have done is I wrote the application. I modified it so that we could import schedules through CSV, and which is, if people aren't familiar with that, it's just text files. It's very easy. And you guys have actually created schedules from representative schedules from 1950 NFL or 60, I believe. I don't remember.
We
Up
went
through,
1950 to today.
yeah.
So
So
we didn't when we were building these schedules, which will be made available for free.
yep,
We didn't go through every single individual year. What
right.
we decided was, okay, well, we're going to start at 1950 and let's look at the size of the various football leagues, how many teams, how many divisions, and then we would have one schedule for every contingency out there for professional football. So, as an example, um, I think 1950 had a certain amount of teams, and in 1951 they added a team. So
Right.
there's one schedule for that set of 1950 teams, and it's denoted 1950. And then from 51, I think, to 59, they had added a team. So we have a schedule that's from 1951 to 1959 that's representative. It's an actual schedule somewhere in there. And I believe what we did was we did the last year. So that would be actually literally be the 1959 schedule. But you would be able to do the 50s. We did the same thing with the 60s, but with both major professional leagues. We did the same thing for the 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, and this year's schedule. So, and it's for every possible league size of throughout professional history. Like when they had 31 teams, we've actually got a schedule set up so that you can do a 31 team league. That was before they finally expanded to 32. Um, and there are single seasons that were made as well. For example, 1976 and 1977. 76 had two expansion teams,